All right, I don't know who needs to hear this, but I think you need to start taking responsibility for your actions. I knew this one person a couple of years ago, and it seemed like this person had a great life. Every time I would see them, they'd be having fun, they'd be enjoying their life, they'd be out with friends, they'd just be, enjoying their day, right? But deep down, the more I learned about this person, I started to realize that their life was horrible. Let me explain. So, this was a person, I'm just gonna say this. This was a girl, okay? And a lot of people thought this girl was really pretty, and everybody thought that this girl had an amazing life. Well, I didn't really know her for like that much at first, and once I got to know her, I realized something about her. Anytime something would go wrong in her life, she would figure out that it was somebody else's fault. She would say that it was somebody else's fault, stuff like that. I remember one time I was talking to her, and we were both like probably like around the age of 17, and she had just gotten a job. Everything was going good with her job. She was making good money. She met a bunch of her friends that she worked with. She was enjoying her life at her job. But then a couple of months later, she got fired from her job. Now, this was a very pretty girl, a very nice girl, a very awesome girl that had her life figured out. So it was pretty confusing to me why she lost her job. Like, it just didn't make any sense. She told me that she lost her job because her boss really hated her and her boss just wanted to see her suffer. So that's why her boss fired her. In the moment, I was like, oh, damn, like, that's crazy. Like, I'm sorry to hear that. But in the back of my head, I was like, there's something you're not telling me. This girl seemed so pretty and so nice and so normal on the outside, but on the inside, she had a serious problem with her character. You see, she ended up getting fired from her job because she never showed up on time. She would never do good work, and she was just overall a bad worker. But when I was talking to her, she said that her boss hated her. That's why she got fired. The thing is, that girl never knew how to take responsibility for her actions and take responsibility for the situation she's in. A lot of people nowadays struggle with taking responsibility for the things that they've caused. For some reason, a lot of people don't realize that they are the reason they're where they are right now. So the reason I'm here and I'm a YouTuber and I live in a decent house and I have a great family and I have great friends is because of all of the things I've done and all of the situations I've put myself in. All of the decisions I've made up to this point have led me to where I am right now. A lot of people tend to blame outside sources or they blame external things for the situation they're in. I knew another person, I'm not going to say names, I'm not even going to say gender, but I knew another person that was even worse about this. Anytime something would go wrong with this person's life, they would find something else to blame it on. They wouldn't realize that it was their fault most of the time. Like this person that I'm talking about ended up buying a car, let's say about 3 years ago. It was about 3 years ago, right? They ended up buying a very, very nice car. At the time, I was like, okay, I don't know how you're affording this. You don't make that much money. I don't know, like, you're obviously not gonna pay for it outright. It was like a $50,000 car, and I knew this person didn't have that much money. Turns out they were making huge car payments on this car, like $700, $800 a month, and they weren't even making that much. They were probably making like $1,000 per month, so they were using basically all of their money that they were getting on this car. I knew it was gonna go wrong, I knew it was a bad decision, but they didn't think it was. A couple of months later, they ended up being broke because of this car. They didn't have enough money, so they had to get rid of the car. They lost a ton of money on that car, right? Normal people would probably say, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have got that car because it was too much money for me. I need to focus. I need to get a cheaper car, and I need to work harder to make more money. But this person was like, that car was messed up anyway. I didn't even want that car. Like, it came messed up. Right when I got it from the dealership, it was like rattling and stuff. I don't even want that car. For some reason, this person was mad at the situation. They weren't mad at themselves for making a bad decision. That wasn't the only thing that this person did. Right after this person sold that $50,000 car, they had to get a different car. Like, they weren't just gonna not have a car, they have to go to work and stuff. So they ended up getting a different car, and this car was like $2,000 or $3,000, maybe $5,000. So it was way cheaper than the other one. For some reason, they ended up picking a very weird car. Like for $5,000, you can get a few like decent cars. You can get an old Toyota or like an old Honda that will still run for a very long time. But for some reason, for $5,000, this person got a very weird car. I'm not gonna say the car, but it's just not that good. Like anybody would know. There were problems with the car. It was pretty obvious. It was ugly. There was like nasty stuff inside. And for some reason, they settled on this car. At the time, they were like, hey, I like this car. Like I can clean it up. I can make it real nice. And I was just like, okay, like good luck with that, I guess. And then a couple of months later, this person ended up figuring out that this car wasn't that good. A couple of months later, like I said, the car ended up breaking down. There was a ton of problems with the car. They had to go get it fixed. They paid a ton of money to get it fixed, and it was good. It was working again. Awesome, right? But then a month later, something else in the car, I think it was like the AC or like the radio, that stopped working too. And mind you, this was an older car that they chose to get. They had so many different options to pick from. They had so many different cars they could have got, and they ended up getting the worst car there. And then every time there was a problem with the car, they started blaming other things. They were like, oh, like, why does this car suck? Like, oh, like, I knew I shouldn't have got this car. They started blaming the mechanics that worked on their car before. They were like, no, I took it into the mechanic shop, and then the next day, the radio stopped working. The mechanic messed up my car. I started to realize that this person never takes responsibility for their actions. This person chose to get a crappy car. This person chose to get a very, very expensive car a long time ago when they couldn't afford it. All of those actions that they chose to do ended up affecting where they were today. What I'm trying to say here is that anything you do right now is going to affect what you're doing later. A lot of people are in bad situations. They have like no money, or all their friends hate them, or they're beefing with their family, and they're like, why is this happening? Why is this happening? And they try to find a reason. They don't want to damage their ego. They don't want to say, oh, the reason my family doesn't like me is because I'm a bitch. They don't want to say, oh, the reason I don't have any friends is because I'm not a good friend. They don't want to say, oh, the reason I'm broke is because I don't work enough and I don't save enough. People don't want to realize that they are the issue and they are the problem in these situations, so they find external things to blame it on. There was something that happened a couple of months ago that really made me sad. So I was hanging out with my friend, and I don't see this friend very often because he moved away. I don't see him that often, maybe like a couple times a year. And whenever we were younger, we would always work out. We would work hard. We would, enjoy working out. We'd want to become strong. We want to be the strongest people around. But ever since he moved away, he kind of stopped working out. He stopped, taking care of himself. And I wasn't going to judge. Like, this is my best friend, you know what I mean? I've been friends with him for a long time. But when he came back home, I asked him, I was like, why don't you work out more often? Like, I don't see you in the gym anymore. Like, you don't send me pictures of you in the gym. Like, do you work out? And he said something to me that was so stupid. He said, yeah, I realized that working out isn't really worth it because my genetics are bad. Like, my parents gave me bad genes, and like, I'm never going to have abs because it's all genetics. I'm never going to have that perfect body because it's all genetics. I'm not able to, get a nice jawline because it's all genetics. I'm not able to get big muscles because it's all genetics. This dude was blaming his laziness on genetics. This dude was saying he wasn't going to work out ever again because there was no point. This dude really put into his head that it wasn't smart to work out. He was telling himself that there was no use in working out because his genes were bad. In reality, the reason he didn't want to work out was because he's too lazy. He wasn't seeing enough progress. He wasn't working hard enough, and in turn, he didn't see enough progress. If he saw enough progress in the gym, if he was working hard enough in the gym, he would have kept going. But the fact is, he would go to the gym, be super lazy, didn't see any progress, was still fat, and then he was like, oh, it's all genetics. Like, everybody who's strong is on steroids. He would always just blame other things. One of the most common situations where people do this is, let me just think of something. So imagine this guy comes home and he's walking around his house, just walking, and then he trips over a bag on the floor and he hurts himself. He's like, damn, why is that bag there? And he gets so mad because he hurt his leg when he fell over the bag. Most people would blame the bag. They'd be like, why is that bag there? Like, I hate my life. Why does everything bad happen to me? Why do I always get hurt? Why is God punishing me? But in reality, the reason he got hurt was, one, he wasn't paying attention. He needs to get off his phone. And two, he needs to clean his house up. Why do you have random bags sitting around the house? Things like this happen every single day to everybody. And I'm not going to act like I'm perfect because I've done this before too. I have been the reason that something happened, and I've tried to find an external factor to blame it on so it wouldn't damage my ego. Nobody in the world likes to be wrong. It's just not fun whenever you're wrong. It's not fun to be blamed for stuff. But if you're able to realize when you're wrong and you're able to blame stuff on yourself and notice when you were the problem and when you caused some issue, you will grow so fast. You remember that person that I was talking about who bought that super nice car and then sold it and then bought a shitty car and then the car was messing up? You remember that? That person still hasn't changed to this day. They are still struggling with that car. They are still, making bad decisions, just having a horrible life. And the reason is they never take responsibility for the things that are happening around them. You have to realize that you are the reason that you are right here, right now. And whatever you do will, affect what is going to happen later in your life. You have to start taking responsibility for everything that happens, because everything that happens is because of you. If you can tell yourself that, yes, I was wrong and I'm going to learn from this, you will become so much better of a human. You will literally level up. There is about 80% of people in this world. I'd say 80% of people on this whole earth don't know how to just lock in. They don't know how to realize when they're wrong and level up from it. If you can take anything from this video, all it is realize when you're wrong and realize what caused this bad situation and how can you learn from this situation. Put yourself in good situations, tell yourself when you're wrong, accept responsibility when you need to, and you will level the fuck up. Let's get it. Peace out. See you next time.